Hi, I'm Dr. Julia Spinello, and welcome to Medical Girl Mystical World, where health is not just about medicine. Today, my guest is Charlie Watts. She's an artist, herbalist, Reiki master, sound healer, and death midwife in training. She is the owner of Flora Apothecary, which provides a unique experience of combining aura photography with flower essence. Welcome, Charlie Watts.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
I am so happy you're here because I always, coming from traditional Western medicine and then studying Eastern medicine, but I'm always learning new things because this is relatively new for me. I mean, I'm an energy healer that's had, a few years of experience, but I'm still learning new things. So what I like to do on my show is to bring things that I don't know much about or I want to get a different perspective on. So when I met you, your photography is amazing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you do flower essence work. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the flower essence part.
And it's how did I get into the flower essence point? I mean, it's kind of funny to just dive really deep into, but a lot of working with flower essences was figuring out how to get sober.
Okay.
And not with a lot of options of trying to figure out with either medication or drug use. It was all pretty to reach sobriety. There was a lot of these modalities set up that were really intensive and invasive, and I was trying to figure out what can be more subtle and what works really specifically with me. And within my art, I've always used flowers, and I've always worked a lot with flowers visually, and they're always in my home. And then I was studying with Patricia Christie Howell, who runs Botanis Logos in the North Georgia mountains. So I did a year with her studying herbal medicine, and that was incredible. But also part of that was we were working with all of these plants in that area, and with some of the flower essences. I developed all my flower essences while I was in her course, and it was just all this really just wonderful experience of working with those flowers and finding within that work how that was really what was resonating with me at the time. I had been an energy healer for about, I think, 4 years at that point, and it was just flower essences kind of perfectly combine what Reiki is and then what herbal medicine is. It's a really wonderful intersection. So it's that's kind of the beginning of it. But.
So I mean, this is the thing. This is what we used, or what people used before, medicine, drugs were created that are now, mass manufactured and all that stuff. So it's kind of taken us back, pun intended, to our roots.
Yeah.
So tell me how flowers helped you recover from your addiction, and what did it provide for you as limiting those side effects from getting sober with withdrawals or what have you. Go ahead and elaborate for me on that.
And and we can kind of go into this more later, but that I'll just state kind of the basics of what a flower essence is.
Yeah.
So when we think of flowers, we think of the ultimate expression of a plant. A flower is this ultimate energy center. It is they're I'm wanting to have sex right now. It's the most vibrant aspect of these plants. And so because of that, these flowers contain super high frequencies of the plant. It's the ultimate expression. It's their runway walk. This is their expression. And so when you imbibe flower essences, you're taking on that vibration and matching yours with that of the flower, because plants are so intelligent. And I feel they're almost a little bit more intelligent than the way we process intelligence. And so it's kind of with flower essences, you're not really working with your physical dense body at all. You're working with the different energetic bodies surrounding you. And we as people haven't been taught how to do that really at all. And so there's most people don't have any maintenance of their energy. We might brush our teeth, and that is we might work out, but this is all for the physical body. So we very through meditation and all this, we very rarely work into these. So when any kind of disease happens in the body, those vibrations move out into the energetic bodies, and a lot of times we'll get stuck and create closed loops. So if, for example, if you get really angry, you shoot anger out, anger can get stuck. And so then essentially you're just re-triggering that anger over and over again. So the idea with flower essences is that with different flowers have different vibrational signatures, but they can help ease those vibrations to keep moving out.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from like a family of alcoholics. I also like in the arts community, it's like alcohol is super pervasive. And I'm someone who it's like I never was like a continuous drinker, but I'm someone who will black out after 2 drinks just because of my weird body, but I still catch myself drinking. So it was one of these, I was looking at it a lot as like this destructive pattern that I was trying to overcome and so I had developed this pattern, this way I had been my entire life. And like, you know, a lot of it is like society, a lot of it is family, like all these things that are like piled on top of us.
Right.
And so I was like really looking to figure out how to repattern and reauthor my life. And, you know, there's within like spirituality, there's a lot of, I've like tried a lot of things at this point, and I'm like really like see the really downsides and like the really high sides for a lot of things. Like I wasn't someone who, I grew up a physician's daughter, so like traditional Western has never usually been my like go-to for anything, but it was very much I was trying to figure out how to work with my particular addiction in a way that wasn't super invasive. Like, you know, with working with any kind of psychedelic therapy, that can be very dangerous. And, you know, within a lot of those therapies, a lot of people who are attracted to those types of things are really dangerous people. So I had encountered some really dangerous people in my life, and then was trying to figure out like, what is a way I can work more with my own energy and my own signatures. And then, so that's when I started doing a lot more with Reiki and a lot more with like making my own medicine. So with like the flower essences I work with, these are all like ones that I have made and like worked with extensively.
Yeah.
So with the particular plants I work with, they're all local to, so I grew up in Atlanta and Clayton back and forth. And so all of my flowers are from this really amazing place called the War Woman Dell. And it's this sacred space where like you walk in and you're just like, every plant in there vibrates. And it's like one of the highest population of medicinal plants in the country is in this particular area of the country. And it's one of these places where it's like the traditional story of like, it was the gathering place of the Cherokee women who would decide if like the tribe was going to war or not. But then, of course, like, you know, when white folks got here, they decimated the land.
Right.
But there kept being these moments where the land kept getting protected from, like, strange coincidences. Like, a train was supposed to go directly through the middle of this sacred land, but then the Great Depression hit, and they lost all the money. So it's still preserved to this day. But with the plants there, a lot of the plants I'm working with are not going to be, there are some like very traditional flowers. Like I work with daisies, I work with magnolias. But there's a couple plants, like I work with rattlesnake plantain as one of my flower essences. And rattlesnake plantain it's a really strange flower because the leaves look like actual snake skin.
Really?
And then when you see the flowers themselves, they just kind of look like little white flowers and nothing that like kind of are in a whorl that come up from the leaves. But then when you get close, they're actually tiny little orchids.
Oh, really?
They're really beautiful plants.
Yeah.
And then I also, one of the flowers I work with that's a little unconventional is Indian ghost pipe. So as a medicinal plant, Indian ghost pipe is it's a painkiller, but it doesn't work like Western medicine where it's like it knocks the pain out. Basically, it works with the body to just help you not focus on the pain. But it's not like, you know, with like a lot of painkillers where it's like, oh, my ankle's broken, but I took this painkiller, so I can't feel the pain, so I'll still walk on my leg.
Right.
So especially with like Indian ghost pipe, it works like energetically in a similar way too, where it's like, you know, like the shit might be real, but you don't need to focus on it.
Right. So let's go over, this is also fascinating to me. I'm like,
I love plants.
Yeah, because I mean, you're talking about flowers and herbs as well, and majority of our medications do come from, you know, some of our are synthetically made, but a lot of them are based from flowers and herbs. So tell me about the blends that you make, and you brought 3. So I want you to go through each of these and what's in them, and what they're for, and how people have responded that you have seen take your products and how they respond. So
so we actually I brought 3 of the individual flowers, the ones I've been working with the most.
Okay.
And 2 of them are the 2 I just talked about was rattlesnake plantain.
Okay.
And so like with rattlesnake plantain too, when so a lot of the energetic properties I have of that are of the flowers are similar to the medicinals, but just like with the more like a more spiritual slant to it. So I mean, with plantains as a medicinal, they're really wonderful for any kind of like skin injury or any kind of like, you know, abrasion you have. Like it helps with like the plantain plants themselves. It will like help stitch the skin back together.
So do you put it right on the skin?
Directly on the skin, like and it's also like a plantain's really wonderful for mosquito bites. Like so if you can recognize the different plantains, if you like chew it up and just like put it like on a mosquito bite, like I am so allergic to mosquitoes, and that's like been one of like my saviors of like like not just being scarred up from mosquito bites, but
that's great.
So but like as an energetic, it is it kind of works in like the idea of like stitching back up the aura. So like actually like working with them like different layers to like if there are any of those tears to like energetically work with like stitching back up. And then like again with ghost flower, it goes back to kind of that idea too of just like, you know, as a painkiller, but it doesn't take away the pain, just has much focus on it. But like as an energetic, it also kind of like works on that too. I forget exactly I won't like quote any statistics, but there's something like it's along the lines for like every insult you need like 4 compliments to like like the brain holds on to those insults as a survival mechanism. So it's just with ghost flower, it really has helped me to like move past like there are of course horrible things always happening. But like in this moment, I'm having a wonderful conversation in like a safe room.
Yeah,
very comfortable. So
so that's what that does for you. So how do you take that one?
So with any of the flower essences I have, it's similar to homeopathy, and it's kind of like the head bending experience of the more diluted it is, the more powerful the medicine. So it's like, you know, with homeopathy, with like the little pearls, these are diluted and then concussed and then diluted and then like shaken, and the more diluted homeopathy is, the more expensive they get, but the more powerful they get.
You think it'd be the opposite though?
Yeah, well it's because in, you know, Western medicine it's like more and with homeopathy and flower essences is the opposite. So with flower essences, the way I take them is usually a couple drops in a cup of tea. A bottle of water is the best because then you're getting it really diluted. Or I do a lot of times I'll do different baths with different intentions. So so that's like how you like take them. Right. You can also take them directly too. It's like, I mean, I do everything. So because it's like there's no plant constituents in flower essences. So because there's no plant constituent, you can't like overdose. And I feel with like a lot of energetic work, like taking more won't necessarily yield more of a result. With flower essences too, a lot of the intentions, like if you're not actively working on yourself, they might not always, they'll subtly, yes, they'll be working. But if you're looking for like for example, like taking flower essences before meditation, like that's when, because it's very subtle, or it can be very subtle. It can also be very cosmic, but so if you take them before meditation, that's like a really great, because then you can actually like start to tap into like what your energetic bodies are to like figure out what like where you need to direct. I'm gonna have to try that. That's really cool. We can go to take. What do you recommend for that before? Which one would you recommend to take before meditation? Really, it just depends on what you're doing that day. So but before meditation, I mean, it just really depends on what you like want to work on that day. So like with like on the labels, for example, like rattlesnake plantain is for endurance. So if you like have like if you need to climb a mountain, but I feel like with ghost flower would be more like for being more appreciative, if you're looking to have more appreciation for your life. And then, and like the one in the middle, because you mentioned like talking about hearing responses from people who work with them. And so the one in the middle is we're just going to go off topic now.
Go ahead.
Well,
I love it. Let's go down the rabbit hole.
Not entirely, but it's so I also brought my reishi essence with me. So reishi is the only mushroom essence I have in the Flora or Apothecary line, and reishi. So like kind of like rewinding a little bit, the way flower essences are made is super simple, and it's like one of those things like if you have certain flowers in your life that really resonate with you, like go out and make your own medicine. Like it's so easy. But basically the idea is that you take different flowers and without touching the flowers, so usually I'll go with like scissors, you put these flowers in a crystal bowl with the cleanest water you can get, and just soak them in sunlight for 4 hours. And the idea is that the vibrations from the flowers will then move into the water.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And then you use a little bit of you can do different preservatives. I use glycerin, and to keep them shelf stable, because if you just leave water can get weird sometimes. But but so with mushroom essences though, they don't work with sunlight. They work with moonlight. So different mushrooms work with different stages of the moon. So with reishi, you harvest your reishi, same deal, in a crystal bowl with the cleanest water you can personally access, and soak it in the full moonlight. And so kind of the difference between flower essences is flower essences are more moving the vibrations out to like soothe or move or whatever. Right. But then mushroom essences take the healing that you have done and return it into your physical body.
Oh, lovely.
So it's so reishi is actually the one I think I hear the most about from people who work with it, and it's one of these. I mean, mushrooms are just like so magical. I really feel like they're going to save the world, but
we'll have to do another show just on mushrooms.
Just on mushrooms. But it's just like, hearing from people, like a lot of time the people who are working with reishi, a lot of them are like super empaths, like just incredible empaths. So just like having to constantly do a lot of boundary work, reishi can be useful. And like you do the boundary work and then the reishi like brings that work back in to remind the body to keep up whatever your version. Like I always travel in the world with a golden egg around me. So it's my personal.
Right. Well, I'm going to have to try. I have to look at them and see which ones I'm trying, because it's just fascinating to me. So like you said, there's not where you can overdose on them, and you just take them when you need them and feel that they've done that, and then if you need to take them again, then you have to. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna keep with the flower theme, because she's all about flowers. You do many cool things, but the other thing that's quite fascinating that you're very well known for is your Flora or photography. And guys, I don't know if y'all have seen, we're going to go through these pictures, but they are so cool. I'm going to let her describe more, but basically she can capture your aura in a photograph. It is so freaking cool. So first of all, and we'll show some different ones and kind of we'll use these as our case studies to show what's going on here. So tell me how you got involved in this and how you could capture something so magical.
Absolutely. So with the different with the different aura portraits that we do, or the idea of aura photography was I'll go back a little bit. But so we as humans have always tried to use photography as like a tool to capture the unknown and to like there's just like different like continuations of wanting to understand visually what the world is around us. And it's really tricky because especially with energy work, this is not something that is super tangible in the visual, like our understanding of the visual. And so with aura photography, it's based off of Kirlian photography, which was, I guess that was like about 100 years ago. It was a photographer who electrocuted an object and then was able to photograph the electrical discharge from the object. So it created these beautiful coronas that around them that like kind of like has these different it almost looked like flames coming out from the different objects.
Right.
And then kind of extrapolating off of that idea, a scientist in the 60s, 70s, this guy, Guy Coggins, developed a camera that, based on Kirlian ideas, could create visual representations of the actual aura. It's one of those things. Auras are very complex and
they're changing all the time.
And they're constantly changing. And then there's like any kind of multidimensional aspects that you want to go into with like the aura can make a whole other argument. So it's constantly in flux, and they're super complicated. So with the ideas with the aura portraits is that it just like it's a very brief distillation into like a visual representation. Whether it asks you to suspend some beliefs and to just like trust magic a little bit. So because it's not like with Guy Coggins, I obviously don't do what he does. He was using it as a diagnosis tool, but like for me, it's more of just like it's like one of these. It's another divination tool. Like it's like pulling a tarot card. It's just like it's a chance to like
where you are right now when I take this.
Yeah, and it's like and kind of the way the flower essences tie into the aura portraits is I've been a photographer since I was 11, and I have always been photographing like these incredible like scenes of people and nature with like a lot of time with flowers and kind of the idea I was trying to figure out with the aura photography and like it's I felt, especially like within millennials, I felt really compartmentalized. Like here's my artist self, here's like my energy healing self, here's my herbalist self, here's like how I actually make money. Like I felt really compartmentalized, and I was like actually looked at that and like how can I pull things together? And so the way I differ from a lot of other aura photographers is that like I will bring in flowers into the aura booth when people to like hopefully amplify what those colors are.
Because I was going to ask you that. Do you have them intuitively pick the flowers?
Yes.
Because that's going to say a lot. Because what they're picking, and I'll do that with people with crystals. I'm like, if there's an event that I'm working at and they are crystal shopping and they'll put their crystals, I was like, show me your crystals, what you have, and I'll tell you what chakras need to be aligned. And it's always the same.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you get the same thing with the flowers. They pick those flowers with whatever vibration. It's like, okay, this is where they are at right now. That's so cool.
Yeah, and then like one of the other things I do slightly different than other aura photographers is that like I am secretly trying to encourage people to incorporate more herbal medicine into their lives. Maybe not secretly, I'm very like so kind of like based off of like an overall like different essence, I'll actually, so you get, usually when you work with me, depending on the setting, is you'll get a portrait and then you'll get a flower essence that I think will help amplify and work with the current colors that are showing up.
Right. So let's look at the photographs that you brought and kind of go through with the colors and how you interpreted what's going on with that person.
Absolutely. So when we think of auras, and this was a lot of, I like to tell people that color is so personal too. So if you have a personal belief that you've grown up with a certain color, like trust that. So when we think of auras though, within the aura photographs themselves, anything that's kind of going on below the ears is what's going on more like closer in and to the denser physical body, and anything above the ears are more the different layers of the energetic bodies.
Okay.
And we also kind of think of it too as usually the general idea is that an aura is capturing energy that's been around for the last 3 weeks, the current 3 weeks, and the last 3 weeks that went through.
Okay.
I usually simplify it a little bit into anything that's on your left. This is going to be more the yin aspect of the self.
Okay.
So the more interior aspect, and then anything going out is the yang aspect. So like the energy that's moved out. So. And you can also think of that too with like that yang energy. It's more how other people perceive you as opposed to the yin is more how you perceive yourself. So for like this is a rainbow situation. Like a lot of times you'll just get one color that will show up. And so within the different colors that she has, so like over here, like in her future, like in the next 3 weeks, she has like a lot of red going on. So when we think of red, like, it's that root chakra. It's also associated a lot of times with working really hard and like, being like honing in on leadership and like things like that. And it's also like with red, it can also signify a new beginning too.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like moves her energy moving up. There's this like little blip of yellow right here that's kind of orby.
And she chose a red flower too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with the orange, like more orangey yellow, when I see orange, it's more thinking about collaboration and creativity and like, you know, the deep seat of manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
And then like her primary color that's like really showing up is a lot of blue.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of blue, I think a lot of the throat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's that, how are you expressing yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you existing in the world? And like really, how are you communicating? And
Right.
so it's just like, it's, what are you doing with your words these days?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's also like with blue too, it's one of those, it goes back to when I think of blue, I mean, obviously it brings up a lot of ideas about water.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see a lot of water showing up, I believe like water can fill any container.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want your container to look like?
Right.
So, and then like moving more, like, so there's blue, and then she also has some like green moving out here too. So
Mm-hmm.
green is associated with the heart chakra. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like very much, it's like that heart energy. It's, you know, it's that deep love for others and the self. And it's also one of the things I do tell people when I see heart energy moving out
Mm-hmm.
is like, who is that energy going to, and do they deserve it?
Ah, good
So,
point. So when you gave her the reading, was she was like, holy crap?
a lot of times, so yeah, no, that happens quite frequently, but it was also really fascinating. One of the things that's been like, you know, it's just like one of those like beautiful synchronicities. I lead people through a meditation before I take their photograph, and I have them actually visualize their aura.
Okay.
And the amount of times it's the same color is beyond freaky. So
That's really cool.
like I had one woman who she imagined 4 different quadrants, 4 different colors, and that's exactly what her photograph came out as. So
Yeah, we really, and that teaches us that we really need to be in tune to our body, because if we even do the meditation, even though the getting the confirmation from having the photography, but really trusting that of what we get can tell us a lot about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at another
Oh
one.
yeah. And like, so this one, there's like this orb going on right here, and I'm super curious with orbs. Like, I think of them as like, who else is showing up?
Right, yeah.
That's also that's just me. No one else has to believe that.
Yeah. No, I believe that. Yeah, for real. So who's that hanging out with them there?
Yeah. I have some ideas, but you know.
Yeah, but the red is so profound. So it's like it's coming in. So he's got stuff that's in the future, but he's letting more of it go out.
Yeah, so it's and then, you know, it's one of these things like moving in from like super hard work into like with this band of pink that's coming through. I think of pink a lot as like self-love, self-care. Like moving into, again, that like self-expression into that heart energy.
Right.
So
that's really cool. Thanks for sharing those with us.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get my aura picture done. Be interesting to see. Do you see auras without the camera?
I do. And it's,
So, okay, so let me pause you. So when you see somebody's aura and then you take the picture, does it always match up?
No.
Really?
Yeah. Because I see, it's like more complex than that, because it's like a lot of times it's like feeling too, so it's not necessarily a visual representation. But for me, when I like specifically see auras, it's more like this complex, like spaghetti web of rainbows is kind of like what I particularly experience. And then I recently found out like that's my grandmother sees them too, so that was like a really amazing,
that's cool,
like family thing. A lot of times they will be really similar. It's just like what I see is more complex than what these images are.
Yeah. Charlie, you are so awesome. Before we leave, for my guests, I always ask them 5 questions. I call it Fast 5 Q&A. And it's to have the audience know you a little bit different than what they see on camera and what you do with your work. First question is related to your work, but I have to ask, what is your favorite flower?
What is my favorite flower? I mean, I have such a soft spot for magnolias. Like, it's, I kind of view them as like the lotus flower of the South.
Yeah.
But I've always had a magnolia tree in my yard, and it's always
Okay, so magnolia. If you could travel in time, would you go to the past or towards the future?
I would go towards the future. People don't really like women too much, so I feel like they're gonna like women more in the future. So.
Okay.
Or I hope.
Yeah. What do you have with you at all times?
What do I have with me at all times? I usually have some sort of calming tincture. Because usually I do like a lot of rose and cardamom. I usually have lepidolite is my all-time favorite stone. That's definitely around. And then in terms of I have one blend called the healing blend of my flower essence line that I always have with me. That's like more of like the really scrappy plants, like like daisy. It's like the ones that like we can't kill them, so
they're always with you.
Yeah, they're super scrappy.
If you could excel at any sport, which sport would you choose?
Sports. None of the sports I played. What sports? I don't like sports very much, but
yeah. But if you get like if you're watching like the Olympics or what would be like, man, if I could do that, I would do that.
If I could do that, I mean gymnastics probably.
Yeah, me too. That or ice skating.
Yeah.
Okay, last one: manual or stick shift.
I'm so bad at stick. That it's like the one time I really tried to learn how to do stick shift, I was in this parking lot with my mom, and this there was a lot of construction going on, and like all the guys were just like on their break eating while I was trying to like figure out how to drive stick.
Oh no, it would have scarred you for life.
I was just like, no, I give up.
I'm not gonna do that anymore. Charlie, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody how they can find you.
So I am, the easiest way to find me is on Instagram at Flora or Apothecary, or my website is charlottewattsphotography.com.
So please check out Charlie's work. You have amazing photography. And she does portraits for people, couples, but also just flower photography. It's just beautiful. And thanks again. And check her out on Instagram and all of her fabulous things. And the local, you're at Modern Mystics, sometimes at Dr. Amy King's place, doing the Aura Flora. But just check her website. She should have those posted of when she's there. So until next time, thank you so much for joining me. Bye.